I hope everyone is enjoying the conference. My name is Matt Hayes. I'm the Vice President of SAP Business at a company called Qlik, which is a Databricks partner. And Bala?
Yeah, so my name is Bala Amavasai. I'm the Global Technical Director for Manufacturing and Logistics, and I come from a company called Databricks. So it's a joint presentation between Qlik and Databricks today.
So Bala and I have been working together because we've had a lot of success between Qlik and Databricks, and the manufacturing sector is very heavy in SAP. So we're going to talk today about a specific use case with a customer that leveraged their SAP data on Databricks for their analytics use cases, and we'll share some of the results. So we'll split the presentation today into, I'll talk a little bit about Qlik and our role in the project and what our solutions bring to the table, and then Bala will talk how everything integrates with Databricks and how Databricks delivered the success on the project. So a little bit who we are at Qlik, and this is, I guess, changed as of just about a month ago. So we have over 38,000 customers in 100 countries, over 2,000 employees. You may have heard the news that Qlik just acquired Talend about a month ago. So the number of employees is now up to 3,600. So quite a big jump there when pushing the companies together. Also, we're an industry leader, a recognized industry leader in the Gartner Magic Quadrant for data integration. Talend had some recognitions in the Gartner Quadrant as well, so there's definitely some synergies around data management and data integration between the two companies that should further and strengthen our position with Gartner. And then market momentum, no matter what's been going on the past couple of years or the past several years, our company's been growing double-digit growth year over year, double-digit profitability, which is very unique for a software company our size. We're just in a fantastic market, just like everybody is here in working with data and analytics and AI. With our partner ecosystem, I focus mainly on our technology partnerships, but we obviously have strong partnerships with SIs and GSIs. But our technology partnerships obviously are cloud-focused, but Databricks is really a centerpiece of our technology partnerships. I think I probably are on, this is my third event this month with Databricks, and I'm probably on calls with Databricks twice every week. You guys probably saw on Tuesday we were recognized as the Data Integration Partner of the Year with Databricks, which we're extremely proud of, and we look to honor that relationship going forward with our other projects. So what holds manufacturing back? My background is SAP. So I've been working with SAP data for 25 years. So some of the constraints and some of the limitations in working with SAP data are just common knowledge to me, but for our customers and for our partners, it really, it's a daily challenge. It's a regular challenge in working with SAP data. The data is siloed, it's shackled, and when I say access to data, I don't mean just SAP. I mean, SAP has its own complexities when it comes to working with data, but data, when you're building analytics use cases for manufacturing, the data is not limited to SAP data. Of course, you're going to use the SAP data, but you're going to use non-SAP data as well. So getting that data from those various sources with each source's unique complexities is a challenge, and some companies just don't even get past this first step here. There's multiple sources, there's legacy applications, there's newer applications, there's custom applications. It's slow-moving data. For customers with BW on SAP, the data's already got some latency built into it. So, there's a lot of challenges in just figuring out how you're going to get the data. Now, once you get the data and get the data into Databricks, the time to readiness is key. How can you speed the time that it takes to utilize that data and operationalize it? So how do you make it analytics ready? How do you make sure that you have the proper skills within the team to do that? And what are the costs and complexities of doing this? I've talked to several customers just this week that have talked to us about, that they've looked at this and tackled this first. They know that the data access piece is going to be difficult, but they've already spent 6 or 8 or 10 weeks modeling the data manually and figuring out how they're going to use it. So anything that we can do to speed that process is going to improve the project. Confidence in the data, reliability, consistency, lineage, governance, There's obviously a lot of complexities around the confidence in the data quality, things like that. And then data consumption. How are we going to use the data? I've seen a lot of T-shirts around here saying dashboards are dead. I kind of like that T-shirt. Qlik being a data integration, data analytics business, we have our Qlik Sense tool, which is largely focused on visualization and dashboards. But there's so much more behind that. There's so much more depth in the AI and the ML side, NLP with InsightBot, working with the data, having conversations with the data. There's so many different applications that you're going to use to access this data. What does that look like? So when manufacturing companies are looking at leveraging the data, they're looking all the way from just basic access to the data, getting it into Databricks, through the modeling complications and application complexities. So there's just so much that gets in the way. So what we found is that, and I apologize that there's that the slide builds out. I find it easier to talk to the slide and let you guys just kind of see it all together. But having a referential architecture is key. And building the referential architecture around the use cases and then plugging in the technology is where we see customers really succeed. And this is an example of how a customer would use Qlik and Databricks together. On the far left, you see the sources. And obviously, we focus on mainframe and SAP because those are two areas that we specialize very highly in at Qlik, with my focus being on SAP. But then getting the data movement, landing the data, doing the full loads, doing the incremental loads, doing the change data capture. The change data capture is really a game changer for our SAP customers because most SAP customers are coming out of BW implementations where they're used to lots of latency. They're used to using data that's a week old, a day old, a week old. It's very historical in performing the analysis. So once you introduce the capabilities of change data capture, all the requirements change. Now you're talking about real-time replication and change data capture from not only SAP, but all your other SAP or all your other application sources as well, your cloud sources. We look at this and say, customers typically will have data coming in from Salesforce, data coming in from IoT devices, data coming in from SAP, data coming in from other cloud sources, and when you put that together, you now need to manage it. What sources are available? What targets are available? What's the throughput? What's the latency? There's a lot of data, a lot of information there to figure out how we can bring it all together and shorten the window so that we're actually working with data in real time. And then the data transformation and automation, this is another differentiator that we have at Qlik because the first thing we want to do is land the data into Databricks, make it so that you can start working with it. But when it comes to complex applications like SAP, you need to be able to do some custom transformations and create data marts that are analytics ready that use those complex models. And you can, when I say complex models, I'm thinking of something like order to cash. I'm thinking of something like shop floor management for manufacturing. Having accelerators that model that can be just maintained or customized for each implementation speeds the project as well. And that push down SQL into Databricks is what we do to then generate those analytics-ready data marts. So here you see kind of the full architecture left to right. Apologize, there's a few more things built out there in the slide. So if you took a picture of it, feel free to grab another snapshot of it. So when it comes to SAP data, and I'll hand it over to Bala here in just a second, SAP data, it really runs the business. You're processing orders and revenue, you're paying employees, you're moving inventory, you're manufacturing goods, and you're managing your GL. So it really is the lifeblood of the business. It's changing every second of every day, and what's happening and what's the performance of that data and what's happening within that data tells a story. So when it comes to telling a story, how do you extract that? Landing the data, getting the data out of SAP is the first thing that you need to do and get it into Databricks. But then using machine learning and machine learning models, using AI capabilities, using advanced analytics, conversational analytics, predictive analytics, prescriptive analytics. There's so many things that you can do with that data if you're receiving it in real time to process and leverage that data, for the purpose of the business and make changes faster. Or make decisions faster. I always think of, in SAP they came out with HANA, and HANA is an in-memory database. And the first thing that every SAP customer did was really focus on their MRP processes. Because typically, MRP would take 6-8 hours to run, so you'd run it once a day. You'd set your manufacturing schedules once a day. Once you had that data in memory, customers found that they could run those MRP runs in 20 minutes. So something that used to take 6 or 8 hours, they could run in 20 minutes. So if you could run your MRP multiple times throughout the day, you actually really take advantage of making modifications in your manufacturing schedule throughout the day as opposed to once a day. So if you had a massive order that was taken 2 days ago and you were set to produce that order today, if half of that order canceled at 10 o'clock this morning, you can actually catch that and make that modification so that you're not storing all that extra inventory. So that's one use case that you can easily think of 1,000 other use cases like that once you enable the data for real-time analytics, you can really use the data not as a byproduct of the transactions and of the business, but as an asset to the business. And when it comes to the actual technical capabilities that we have around SAP, and this might get too technical, but every SAP customer faces performance and latency challenges, but they also face licensing challenges and what they risk challenges with SAP data. What can and can't they do? Lots of times they'll hear from their SAP sales rep that you're not allowed to take data out of SAP for certain reasons or in certain ways. So at Qlik, we focus on that, and we deliver endpoints and different processes and techniques for getting the data out of SAP. We make sure that we can not only do a direct connection to the database with a long-based change data capture, but we can also do trigger-based change data capture for HANA. So for customers that are moving from Oracle or SQL or DB2 to HANA, we can offer endpoints that are more specific to how HANA is designed. We can also let customers go through, or help customers go through the application layer and pull data through extractors or pull data through ODP, which is an API that SAP provides. So any way you slice it, there's some way to get the data out of SAP. And understanding those unique complexities and designing solutions for that is something that we're really proud of at Qlik, and it really benefits the partnership with Databricks because it eliminates so many barriers and so many obstacles when you're getting the data from SAP into Databricks. So what we're going to talk about today is Daimler Mercedes. This is a customer that leverages Azure. They leverage both Databricks and Synapse, and they use Qlik to get the data from their sources, some of which are SAP sources, into Databricks for their analytics use cases. So real-time data around their analytics was really going to be a difference maker when it comes to OEE data and improving the supply chain and looking for gaps in the supply chain. There were 37 different use cases that Daimler Mercedes implemented in this project, and the fact that the data was always up to date and they were working with data in real time was really key because they had 10 different production plants serving the markets worldwide. So getting data from those 10 different plants from the disparate applications and consolidating that data as close to real time as possible is what enabled it. So they had a couple impacts right away. They accelerated the ramp-up production. They increased their shop floor monitoring, or their efficiency of shop floor monitoring, and they were able to look for patterns and insights in their supply chain. So that way, if there was going to be a disruption in their supply chain with a particular raw material, they could plan for that and they can see that ahead of time so that manufacturing schedules could be adjusted to avoid downtime. So they really expect that this is going to save $100 million over the next few years. And these are the use cases that both Databricks and Qlik look for with our customers. It's not a technology solution. It's what are the use cases that are going to make a real impact to the bottom line. So in relation to the architecture, the referential architecture that I showed you before, this is what the Mercedes architecture looks like. So the Mercedes architecture looks, it's obviously not exactly like that technical architecture that I showed you, but this is specific to what Mercedes is doing. And this shows you on the left side, very similar, taking data from sources including SAP, using Qlik data integration to get the data into Databricks, landing the data into Databricks as well as Delta Lake, and leveraging Synapse as well. And this is obviously on a Microsoft Azure platform. This is up here just real quick if you guys want to grab a picture of this. This is just a quote from Mercedes talking about the impact of the project and what their expectations were of the project for them globally. So Bala, it's not just Mercedes, right? We've got a lot of customers that you guys help with this.
Yeah, but it's not just Mercedes. So I will delve slightly deeper into Lakehouse for manufacturing. So Lakehouse for manufacturing is a play on how we've custom-tuned Lakehouse for manufacturing, and why Qlik is an important partner of ours in order to deliver Lakehouse for manufacturing. So today we work with over 1,300 manufacturers globally. Our fastest growing sub-vertical within manufacturing is automotive, hence the example from Mercedes. Our second fastest growing areas are in the industrials and aerospace. And if you look at aerospace, for example, you've got the two giant aircraft producers who are customers of ours, plus the jet engine manufacturers as well. So, and they all run on Databricks. So Matt spoke about some of the key challenges that we are seeing in the industry. One of the biggest challenges that we are seeing is IT-OT convergence. You've got IT data in the form of sources like SAP ERP, and we've got OT data that we've got to contend with. So this is basically IoT data coming in from SCADA systems, MES systems, PLCs, and so on and so forth. But how do we deal with that? We've also got challenges around the quantity of data that we deal with. When you look at manufacturing has between 4 to 10 times the amount of data that any other vertical has, versus healthcare, versus retail, versus financial services, and so on. So having that one platform, being the Lakehouse, serves all these needs, but also having the partnership that we have with Qlik, in order to consume data from IT sources like SAP, ERP, is extremely important. And Qlik is actually one of our launch partners for Lakehouse for manufacturing. And just a statement about the massive amounts of data that we get from manufacturing. And the difficulty that lies within manufacturing is how do you operationalize this data? Much of this data are set in silos. Due to the quantity of data, you might have signals that are lost within the data, but how do you surface that? And that's extremely important within manufacturing. Here are some of the observations that we see across the manufacturing industry. There's a need to consolidate data and AI into one platform, to have simple patterns. Many of the manufacturers that we work with, they want open standards. For many, many years, they have been locked into proprietary systems, proprietary SCADA systems, proprietary databases, and so on and so forth. And as we know, the field of data and AI is evolving rapidly, and getting locked out of your own data, it's something that you do not want. The third item is to plan for multi-cloud. Many of our customers are running on more than one cloud. And if you notice the partnerships that we've created, including the partnerships with Qlik, access to SAP data in a multi-cloud environment is extremely important. Many of our customers are using machine learning and artificial intelligence as a competitive advantage. If you speak to the likes of companies like John Deere, Collins Aerospace, and so on and so forth, if you've been into the manufacturing forum event yesterday, these companies are actually using machine learning and AI as a competitive advantage. But the important thing to achieve is to get access to this data. And finally, IoT analytics needs to be deployed in real time and at scale. So Matt spoke about the real-time availability of data, but also the ability to access this data in real time, to run machine learning models in real time, and surface the results. So if we look at Lakehouse for manufacturing, it's an end-to-end play for manufacturing, right from the sourcing of raw materials, to the manufacturing of goods, to the distribution of goods, to B2B and B2C vendors, so goods being moved to B2B and B2C channels, and finally, products landing in the hands of customers. And we have many, many use cases that transcend the whole value chain. Some of the examples are shown here, and we can dive a little bit deeper in 2 slides down. Well, one of the most important things to think about when it comes to manufacturing is that although manufacturing may be deemed as old school, oily, greasy shop floors and all of that, if you look at many of the most modern, if you look at some of the companies that are actually modernizing their whole manufacturing stack, their aim is to become a data analytics and AI company. So if you look at companies like John Deere, for example, which is one of our flagship customers, they went from data that's ingested in days or weeks to data that's ingested in seconds. 8 petabytes of data ingestion now happening in seconds. They have over 450,000 connected machines, so agricultural machines streaming data at every step of usage. And the democratization of the data, the ability to build data products over this data, such that today they've got 4,200 users of the platform. And there are certain trends that are driving the transformation. From an automotive point of view, we've got ACES, which is autonomous, connected, electric, and shared. Recently, you've heard a lot about large language models. How can we use large language models to augment the workforce? So to that end, we are releasing some code on how do you do that within manufacturing over that. So it'll be done within the next few weeks. We also understand that when it comes to industrial productivity has stagnated since 2008, but operating margins has increased. The cost of materials, the cost of logistics and transportations, the cost of energy, and so on and so forth. And what we attempt to do between Databricks and Qlik is this, right? We want data to drive change. We want data to drive change in a positive way. And to that end, one of the items that we are trying to do is to democratize data along the full ISA 95 stack. So if you recognize this diagram, that's the automation pyramid. And the ability to get data from any one of these levels is extremely important to us. If you look at the arrows on the right, when you talk about data that's coming in from streaming sources at the bottom of the pyramid, and you've got batch data coming in from the top of the pyramid, how do you use data to drive planning, from bottom to top and from top to bottom? So to that end, the relationship with Qlik is this, right? The ability to integrate SAP data, bottom left, the ability to integrate OT data, top left, using the Databricks platform as your analytics platform, and surfacing new use cases, as you can see on the right. To an extent, you could be building these use cases without SAP data, but in order to have the full end-to-end solution, SAP data is extremely important. Many of the companies that we work with, they are moving to a services-based business. So equipment as a service is a huge play within manufacturing, whether it be product or whether it be the usage of equipment within manufacturing. And this is an interesting statistic which shows that if 30% of your revenues come from services, they account for 60% of the profits. Extremely powerful diagram. And the source is not Databricks. The source is from, I believe it's from Bain. And what's important for us is to run use cases over the data. As I mentioned previously, we've got multiple routes to doing that. We build solution accelerators. So I'm part of the industry team that surveys the industry. So we try to understand what your biggest challenges are. And what we do is we build notebooks that you can adopt very quickly within your company. We also have solutions that are built by partners called Brick Builder Solutions. So these are SI partners. And examples of that is that, Evernote, for example, has a full IoT stack on Databricks. You've got the likes of Tradence, a company that builds manufacturing solutions like energy monitoring and so on. And they deliver that as Brick Builder Solutions. Those are solutions which are 70% built. And all you need to do is to hook in the right pipelines for data. So I'll just focus on the top end, which are solution accelerators. If you go onto a search engine and look for Databricks solution accelerators, you'll see many of these, from predictive maintenance being on the right, predictive maintenance being our number one use case, to things like digital twins. So if you needed to build a digital twin, we have notebooks available to you, available as open source with a Databricks license where you can download and you can actually implement it. So that's moving digital twins away from just being a buzzword to something more practical. In the same way, if you need to do OEE monitoring, as Matt was talking about, we have solution accelerators that allow you to do that. The key there is having the right connectors coming in for your data. So the likes of having data sources from SAP in order to achieve a more accurate result. In the same way, if we look at supply chain, we've got a couple of solution accelerators around things like demand forecasting. And demand forecasting is one of the #1 use cases for SAP data. How do you do it at the part level? How do you do it at the raw material level? And how do you do it at scale? On the right, we've got a solution accelerator on supply chain distribution optimization. And we know that it's a hard problem. It's not hard because the problem itself is hard to solve. It's hard because of the inability to scale the problem. So here we show you a pattern on how to do that. And there's many more. And there's many more solution accelerators, as I mentioned. If you just go into a search engine and type in Databricks Solution Accelerator, it should bring you to that page. And Matt, I believe I'll hand it over to you now.
So when it comes to customer stories, again, obviously the use cases are endless. I think some of the use cases that you showed, Bala, are transformational. I'm a techie, I'm a data guy, so I get my fun from helping enable these by making sure that we're processing the data and getting the data where it needs to be for customers to work with it. And every industry has unique scenarios. At Qlik, we've built some solution accelerators around SAP that are very high level. Order to cash, inventory management, finance, procure to pay, shop floor. But the depth that you guys have gone into here really shows the art of the possible. I feel like that term's overused, but customers are really implementing these solutions. So we talked about the Daimler Chrysler use case. We have another fantastic use case at Schneider, and Schneider is not only a large customer for you and us, but obviously SAP. So looking at the data modernization challenges that they face, in this customer, and we see this a lot with customers, that we see a lot on the newer platforms for SAP with HANA and S/4HANA, but we still see customers using some of the relational databases, like in this case DB2 and ZOS, and we see we have customers that have heterogeneous environments where they have multiple SAP sources, and they're all over the place. Some of them are on HANA, some of them are on Oracle, some of them are on DB2, some might be DB2 ZOS on the mainframe, and some might be DB2 iSeries. So we see every different iteration of complexity, especially as some of these manufacturing companies have grown by acquisition and put different ERP environments together. So 70% accelerated time to value and 35% cost reduction in the project for Schneider. These are things that we look at and say, okay, this is the joint success manifesting with the customer, because the customer is the one who wins. JB Hunt is another customer, US-based. I think the Schneider use case was Europe. The JB Hunt use case is US-based, focuses on the key of change data capture here. Lots of detail on these slides. I don't want to read them to you. So we typically hear a lot of real specific statements that our customers make. In fact, we run a call with a large manufacturing company a couple years ago while we were preparing to do a joint webinar together, and they actually received an email from their CFO that went company-wide that talked about the use of data and how they're able to make decisions within the day as opposed to waiting for month-end or quarter-end close, and how that's been transformational to their business. The statement here by JB Hunt is similar. Like, mission is to create the most efficient transportation network in North America. With Qlik feeding the Azure Databricks data lake, we're seeing more real-time data in JB Hunt 360. So this is what we're looking to do. We're looking to understand the mission of these customers and what they're trying to do with their data, and working with Databricks, making sure that from a technology standpoint, we can make this vision a reality. So in this slide, this talks a little bit about getting started. How do you get started? If you're not doing this already with Qlik and Databricks, and this is a project that you guys might be looking at undertaking, how would you get started? Learning more, just by show of hands, how many of the folks in this room run SAP at their business? Great. I'm always scared to ask that question. I did a Databricks event in Chicago where I live about 2 weeks ago, and I asked that question, and there was one hand that went up in the room. So I kind of felt like, well, maybe they're not understanding what we're talking about here. But SAP data hard to work with? Show of hands. Okay, good. I like to, I mean, I'm sorry that you guys are going through that, but I like to hear that because I'd like to make the job easier for you. But, you know, learning about unlocking the data, making sure that you're understanding how we can do that, how we can help you unleash and unlock and free that SAP data is key. Understanding the value of your investment, obviously you're looking at the cost of the project, you're looking at your investment with Databricks, you're looking at your investment with a data integration solution. We hope that, we expect that as you look at the project, the costs might actually come out less than what you anticipated for tackling some of those complexities. And then, you know, obviously, you know, join Databricks in a technical workshop. You can join us in a technical workshop, and we can engage together from a technical level. We can also engage with your partners. You saw Bala present a bunch of partners that are critical to your ecosystem. So those same partners that are critical to Databricks ecosystem are critical to our ecosystem as well. The one thing that's nice about working with SAP is that it's a key market, it's a target market, it's strategic for all of us. It's strategic for Microsoft. If you're on Azure, it's strategic for AWS. It's definitely strategic for Databricks, and it's certainly strategic for Qlik. So, working with us together with your technical teams, we can help really help you understand how we can do this. And one of the things that we do together, and we've offered this for some time now, is a deep dive. A workshop, a proof of concept, 2-week free proof of concept. I think it's 2 weeks, but we've seen it go longer. This is where you have access to Databricks resources, you have access to Qlik resources, you have access to technical personnel, R&D personnel, so that we can really scope it out, build this out in a workshop, figure out how this is going to work, and then apply the software for a 2-week period so that you can actually do a free proof of concept or proof of technology on both the Databricks platform as well as Qlik solutions to help get that data and land that data. This is a very successful program for us because it helps you as the customer understand how to do this without taking on a lot of risk, and it helps us really demonstrate that what we're showing you today is not just slides and marketing architectures. It's actually something that our customers are doing and something that you guys see. Because once you see your data land in Databricks and you create one of those basic order to cash or shop floor analytics-ready data marts, and you point something really basic against it, now the light turns on. Now you're like, okay, that's our data doing a really basic and simple use case. And then you can build out the complexities from there. So we encourage you to talk to us, take advantage of this program. Obviously, Qlik is a sponsor here. We've got a booth out on the show floor. We've seen a lot of you folks on the show floor already. It's been a fantastic week. I hope this has been a lot of value for you all. And I think at this time, Bala and I are available. I think we've got 6 more minutes. If anybody has any questions, happy to take them.
So if you have any questions, please raise your hands and we'll get a microphone to you.
Come on, somebody's got a question. Okay, I'm going to ask you guys a question. So I saw the show of hands for companies that run SAP. How many of you are on S4 HANA? How many of you are on HANA? Okay, so a majority of you are on a traditional database. Oracle? Don't know? No? Okay. How many of you run BW for your SAP BI? All right, I'm asking too many questions. Your turn. Bala, is there anything in the use cases you want to expand on?
I could. I think there's a question in the fire. So let me get a microphone to you. Oh, sorry.
Thank you. How do you see DataSphere fitting into the picture?
That's a really good question. Really good question. First of all, thank you for sticking around, because I always look at the person that's sitting closest to the door, and if you stayed all the way to the very end, I think they're somewhat interested. So thank you for staying to the end. But that's a great question. So DataSphere is a rebranding of SAP's Cloud Data Warehouse. So think of cloud data warehouse as SAP's attempt at competing with Databricks or the S word. I don't want to say it this week, but the cloud-based enterprise data warehouse focus. SAP looked at it and said, well, we could do what Databricks does. We could do what the S company does. We just want to do it in HANA. So the data warehouse cloud is built on HANA. It's in SAP's cloud, which of course you could run on RISE, which means you could pick your cloud provider. But they were really struggling with adoption on that because obviously ERP adoption is very high for SAP, but when it comes to some of the other technologies, they're a little behind. They're behind on cloud, they're behind on cloud data warehousing. So they were really struggling with it. So what they did was they rebranded it as DataSphere, and they opened it up for the first time to partnerships. So Databricks is actually one of the 4 partners in the DataSphere program. I think DataRobot, Calibra, and Confluent might be the other one. So there's a handful of partners that are welcomed into that program. At Qlik, we're actually looking at how we can participate in that program as well. So it's something that's very interesting to us. The Databricks involvement in that partnership, we've tried this week to really understand from Databricks what that means. Do you know what that means, Bala?
So I'm going to take a slightly neutral approach to the question. But so the DataSphere program to Databricks, it's going to happen in phases. In the first phase, you're talking about access to data in the warehouse and running analytics on the Databricks notebook, which means it's also not real-time data. It's batch data. It's non-real-time data. So hence, we are continuing with the relationship with Qlik when it comes to using Qlik Replicate to surface real-time data. In the first phase of DataSphere, we are talking about interoperability of notebooks. So running notebooks from SAP as well as Databricks, but accessing data in batch fashion with SAP. But let's see where it goes. The pattern to access data in real time is still through Qlik Replicate. If you need CDC data, and if you need to land them in the Lakehouse, then it is through Qlik Replicate.
Did we answer your question? You're welcome. 2 minutes. Oh, another one. Do you still have the microphone? Run, Tom, run.
2 minutes.
I'm doing it for you. So I will reverse the question. Instead of asking what are the sources that you support, are there any SAP sources that you don't support for the ingestion of the data from SAP sources into Databricks?
There's really no sources that we don't support. I'll give you just an example on the SAP side itself. Raw tables, transparent tables, we can connect to the database and do either log-based or trigger-based change data capture, depending on if you're HANA or you're not HANA. But if you're leveraging CDS views, HANA information views, BW objects, we have the ODP endpoint that allows us to take data from SAP from those proprietary objects using ODP. And what's nice about that is ODP gets 90% compression, so it's very efficient. It's an API from SAP, which is great. And with Qlik, what we've done is we've engineered it to feed the data directly into Qlik, the Qlik data platform, so we don't have to go through OData. So most customers that use ODP use OData, which is the slow point there. So if we bring it directly into Replicate, we can still maintain a competitive efficiency around movement of that data. For cloud sources, if you're using some of the SAP clouds, we have a cloud factory with our Qlik Cloud data integration that allows us to leverage the APIs to pull data from Fieldglass, Concur, Ariba, things like that. So applications where SAP has purchased those native cloud applications and worked it into their ecosystem, into the stack, we can access data from those cloud sources as well.
Thank you.
All right, down to 8 seconds left. So thank you all. Appreciate it.
Oh, you can go down and get a demo if you'd like at the booth.
Oh yeah, we can do a demo. Come to the booth. I'm happy to have a deeper discussion. We can show you a demo.
It's 308. It's right behind the Microsoft booth.
So right as you walk in, you see Microsoft to the left. We're right behind that. So as you walk in, we're 11 o'clock from your entry. Thank you very much, everyone. Enjoy the rest of the conference, and good luck getting home.